So
Funnily enough,
funny.
though, like one of the things that I discovered years ago on YouTube was somebody breaking down their use of samples, the Prodigy's use of samples.
Oh
And there's a
wow.
whole video of this guy. He collects all the samples from all the different places they found them, and he recreates the songs completely. And that
That's
was like,
wild.
it's mind blowing. Like the way they use samples is crazy. I've never seen people do it like that before. It's just so, um, you know, little parts of songs that you wouldn't expect have been cut in certain ways, and they just,
Yeah.
it's just amazing.
Right on, dude. Well, I appreciate this. This is my name's Adam, and this is a podcast about you and your journey in music, and we'll talk about the new
Mm.
EP.
Yes, sir. Yeah, thank you for having me on, man. I really appreciate it.
Of course.
Looking forward to chatting.
Amazing, amazing. So first off, where were you born and raised?
Born and raised in Edinburgh, Scotland. Still there at the moment.
Okay.
Kind of back and forth, but you know,
Between there and where else?
I was living in London for a bit. My girlfriend lives in New York, so I'm kind of there
Oh,
every
New
so
York,
often at the minute.
London, and Edinburgh, huh?
Yeah, it's like it's just a whole thing, man. But it's it's cool here, but you kind of outgrown it at this point.
I gotcha.
Yeah, there's not
What's it
too
like
much of it.
yeah, what's it like growing up there?
Great place to grow up. Brilliant place to grow up. Brilliant. Pretty safe and calm. But yeah, I mean, in terms of music culture and all these things, it's limited. It's got a great DJ scene. There's a few really cool clubs and all that. But yeah, for the most part, growing up, it was anything I learned about dance music, I learned through the internet. Do you know what I mean?
Oh, is that right?
It was mostly that way. And then when I was 18, I was kind of going to drum and bass shows here in Edinburgh, because in Edinburgh, we're kind of lucky that we're one of the only places in Scotland with any sort of semblance of a drum and bass scene.
Mhm.
So yeah, I mean that was sweet. But outside of outside of that, I mean, pretty quiet place to be. Can't imagine, it's the kind of place I could see myself coming back and sitting down again when I'm like in my 40s.
Yeah, yeah. No, I got it.
Sweet for that, man. It's gorgeous for that, but there's certainly better places for me to be right now. So
Yeah, as far as the art scene and music and everything else.
yeah, totally. We make it work though. I
That's
mean, I
cool,
don't know,
man.
but where are you based?
I'm in Nashville, Tennessee now.
Nice, right? So you've got
Yeah.
great
Yeah,
music
I'm
scene.
originally from San Diego, California, so I had LA and
Yeah,
that fairly close, but
yeah,
Nashville is where we landed about 2 years ago, my family and I. So
yeah.
love it
Great
here.
place, man. I've always wanted to go.
Yeah, it's cool, man. I thought when I moved here that it was like some country town. I'm sure country is a big deal here, but I mean, there's songwriters and musicians
Yeah,
and producers from all walks of different genres and everything here. It's pretty amazing.
yeah, man. No, I've heard. I think that's kind of what you want, though. You want a bit of a melting pot of
Oh
everything,
yeah.
because
Yeah,
it's just
I was thinking like, okay, it's gonna be only country. That's cool, whatever. Like, I'm not a huge fan, but at least there'd be music here. And then no, I was shocked to see that
yeah,
I've met so many people from so many different genres of music. So
yeah.
it's been great here.
That's it, man. That's what I like about London as well. There's just a bit of everything for everyone.
Mhm.
And especially somewhere like Edinburgh. Edinburgh's great, but it's a lot of singer songwriters and a lot of kind of just indie bands and rock bands, and
Mhm.
like that kind of that's what I grew up being around, everybody like that. I was in a couple of little bands myself when I was like a teenager,
Oh yeah.
and
Well,
it was
how did you get into music? Like, you
I just
started
kind of
off playing
yeah,
instruments and being in a band.
yeah, more or less. So I kind of always been doing music, but my dad's a musician, so I don't know, he kind of wanted me to do some kind of um instrument or whatever it was. I mean, it didn't, he wasn't forcing me to, but he just encouraged it.
Mhm.
So I played drums growing up.
Oh, really? What
Um,
at what age did you start doing that?
I probably started playing drums when I was, God, I can't even remember. I must have been 10,
Okay.
maybe 11, yeah, that range. Um, and yeah, from there, kind of, he's a guitar player, and he never really taught me much guitar. He showed me the basics, but I just sort of picked it up myself and watched him play and figured it out that way. So yeah, a lot of it was just playing, you know, really bad indie rock stuff as a
Yeah.
teenager, and that was cool. But it was it wasn't till like, I mean, it was when I kind of discovered electronic music myself just through. Well, and that's not true. I think I heard the Prodigy, and that
Oh,
kind of
yeah.
got me hooked. But
I remember the first time I heard The Prodigy, I was like, "What is
yeah,
happening right now?"
yeah, literally, like I don't think I'd never heard anything like that before. And when you're younger, you don't kind of, you know, you don't really know exactly what you're listening to. So it's like
Uh-huh.
I didn't know what I was listening to. I didn't know if it was electronic music. I didn't know it was a band. I didn't know what it was,
Right.
but it
I remember
was
seeing the
just,
music video on MTV, and I'm like, "Who
mm,
are these 2 dudes? Like, this is
yeah,
insane."
they're
And, like, yeah, you
literally,
couldn't figure out if it was, like, if they were a band or what, like, really what was going
that's
on.
it. Even just listening to it, the I think the way that I heard the Prodigy was my brother had heard one of their songs was in a film soundtrack,
Mhm.
and my brother was really into film and stuff, and as a Christmas gift he got me a Prodigy album.
What, the one
Um
with the crab on it?
no, it was the one after. It's called bear with me.
Oh,
It's
no
got
worries.
it's
I can't even remember the name
uh
of the one with the crab on it, to be
yeah,
honest.
I'm so bad with album names, man. It was Always Outnumbered, Never Outgunned. Um
Okay, yeah, yeah, yeah.
so that one, that was a record like Girls and You'll Be Under My Wheels and tunes like that. But
Mhm.
yeah, it was that. So I just listened to that religiously, and that kind of
Okay.
changed. And you know, from there I was like, I think I just like electronic music now, you know.
Yeah.
And then, but it's so funny how that doesn't translate. You know, like that's so that track that album and them as a band were so intense and
Mhm.
like gritty, and I kind of haven't followed that at all. You know, it just obviously shapeshifts, and I'm not making something that's gritty and high
Right.
energy, but it's like,
But that was kind
you
of the
know,
groundwork, I mean, the
yeah,
base of what you
the
kinda started with.
exactly the impetus, is that the
Right,
word?
impetus. Yeah,
Yeah.
no, that for sure. Have you
Um,
seen that, just real quick on the Prodigy, have you seen the video that somebody put up online where it's Firestarter, but it's like it's old footage of the Beatles playing?
no, I've
Oh, it's
not.
so funny. It's like them playing Firestarter, but the way they edited it,
Yeah, makes it look,
it looks
mate, I
like
love
they're
that
doing
stuff.
it.
I love that stuff, man.
It's
It's
so
funnily enough
funny.
though, like one of the things what that I discovered years ago on YouTube was somebody breaking down their use of samples, the Prodigy's use of samples.
Oh,
And there's a
wow.
whole video of this guy, he collects all the samples from all the different places they found them, and he recreates the songs completely. And that
That's
was like,
wild.
it's mind blowing. Like the way they use samples is crazy. I've never seen people do it like that before. It's just so um you know, little parts of songs that you wouldn't expect have been cut in certain ways, and they just,
Yeah.
it's just amazing.
I
But
know
that,
it's so technical. Like, it's just a different type of, way, the way you hear something or put something
yeah,
together. Because if you literally think about, I mean, music is, you can use the same 4 or 5 chords for
yeah,
a million different songs, but you can also take little snippets of songs and build them into something that's so different than what the original composition sounded like.
completely. I mean, that's what I always say to people, like about making music, is you can make with, especially with electronic music, I think that's what attracts so many people, is that
Mhm.
you can make anything with anything. Like there's
Right.
not really a boundary of like what you can't make, right? Like you could take a guitar and you could sample it, and you could, you know, speed it up loads, you know, duplicate it loads and create a whole new sound out of it. You could, you know, even down to EQing out, or so it's just one specific frequency. Then you basically have a raw sine wave, and
Right.
from there you can make a whole new synth. And it's like there's not really. That's what's cool about sampling. Still, is like it's just like a larger version of that. You know, it's a larger version of the idea. You can take any piece of audio and turn it into any piece of audio if you really want to.
Yeah, it's
And you could
wild.
go even further there, you know, like if you could zoom in on a waveform, and you could theoretically recreate any sound out of sine waves if you spent the time to manually put in the sine waves in the shape of the waveform. You know, it's like it's just, I guess it's science at that point. But
Yeah, no, it really is. It's so
you know,
mathematical, and
yeah,
there's like a video, I think it's a video or some guy, like, he they like test sound waves on like on water, like how the water moves.
Yeah.
Have you seen that? And then
Yeah.
like they're able to figure out like if you can, and it gets so deep, but it's basically like you can almost be able to find like a formula for some like a pop song or something that will be, you know,
Hmm.
like it'll cause some sort of reaction in someone's ears to be like, oh, this is
Yeah.
a good song, like, and it's all based off of math and science on how to make the
Yeah.
waves do a certain, it's just so wild.
It's
Like
wild.
there's
Like
like
even
a, you can like
speaking on
unlock
that,
it.
I saw a video the other day of a frog. I don't know what kind of frog it was, but it puts itself in the water and then it I guess it hums or it vibrates its body at specific frequencies so that the water creates this ripple pattern, and it's this
Mhm.
really beautiful ripple pattern, and that's how it attracts a mate. But
Oh
it's
wow.
stuff like that, like there's that whole thing too of I can't remember what they do, but the yeah, if you get like a big metal plate and you put sand on it
Mhm.
and you play a specific frequency, it creates these like beautiful mosaics
Oh
because
yeah, yeah, I've seen that
yeah,
before. Yeah,
so crazy, man.
it's so, it gets so deep,
It's
my
so
my
easy
mind
to
can't even like comprehend.
Me too. But it's so easy to forget that it's all just science. Like
Right.
underneath all of it, it's all
Yep.
science. So like, listen, mate. In a way, we're all scientists.
Right. It's
You know
all
what I mean?
science and math at some point. Like you could
Exactly.
create, it's all zeros and ones or whatever it is.
That's what it is, man. If you go deep enough, you
Yeah,
know,
dude. Wow.
it's crazy. But yeah,
Um, so
I
you
kind of
start, yeah, yeah. No, real quick back to so dad play is a guitar player. Is that what he
yeah,
did like as professionally? Or is it just something he enjoyed doing, or is he a
yeah,
singer
yeah.
songwriter?
Professionally, he's just like you know, played in a lot of bands and kind of you know, was yeah, he's done a very various different stuff over the years. He currently teaches at university now, but
Oh wow.
he yeah, I mean it's sweet because I grew up around a lot of he put me onto a lot of cool music growing up, but
Mhm.
it was never a case of he never held my hand through it, you know. It wasn't like any silver spoon type thing where I was sort of given all this music knowledge and all these resources. Is he wasn't, you know, he's just been trying to make a living the same way as me from it. You know, it's always been like a really tough business. So
Sure.
he was able to kind of yeah, he like I think the biggest gift I got from that was being put on to really cool tunes growing up
Mhm.
and music I still listen to now. Um and yeah, he definitely yeah, so he does a lot of he works at university, he plays in kind of function bands a bit now and but yeah, growing up, he was like a sort of touring musician, session musician type of thing mostly.
You
Um,
remember going to see him like as a kid?
yeah, a couple times. Yeah, a couple times. I just more so remember being at the sound checks, you know,
Uh-huh.
because I like we would just have to go along, and so I'd be sitting on my Game Boy at the sound check or whatever. But like, yeah, that was kind of the extent of what I remember of it. And from then, it's mostly been like the relationship we have with music is just sharing music
Mhm.
with each other, um, and talking about, he'll show me songs I'd like, and vice versa. So
Very,
it's pretty
very
good in
cool.
that regard. Yeah.
Yeah. So when you started, you said you played in a band, like an indie band. Were you the drummer in those bands early on?
No, so I played guitar in one of them, and I played. What did I do in the other one? Maybe I was bass in the other. No, I was guitar as well. I was lead guitar in one of them when I was like 15, and then I played rhythm in one, but we never even had a gig. The second band, we just rehearsed a bunch
Okay.
for no reason. We would just rehearse all the time, and then we never ended up playing a show or anything. But um, and yeah, no. Shortly after that, I started. I think I discovered FL Studio, and then yeah, I didn't look back then because I could do it all on
Yeah.
my own. You know, I didn't have to work with anyone to do it, which
Uh-huh.
I think I liked. Is like more yeah, like you can just sit in your room and escape into it on your own. I think I liked that side of it.
Yeah.
uh, I was kind
And
of over sort of waiting for other people to show up to practice and that.
right, right. Yeah. You kind of become your own solo artist at that
That's
point.
it, yeah, which is so much easier in many regards, you
Sure,
know.
sure. Were you like once you started making songs on like more like electronic music, were you putting them up online early on, or like at what
Yeah,
point did you get the courage to kind of show someone what you were working on?
I pretty quickly started just putting them on SoundCloud and showing them to friends. Yeah, I never really like gate kept them. Like I think a lot of people wait until they feel like it's good enough to release or put out and show people. But
Yeah.
I guess I think I probably had some blind confidence that it was
Kind
all
of a
gonna
good
work.
thing, right? I mean, to
Yeah,
not be afraid to show somebody something, because
yeah,
I've had a lot of conversations with artists where it's like they'll wait so long, and then it's like, why didn't I just
yeah.
show something way
No,
earlier?
for sure. Yeah, 100%. I think it's like the my friend always says like finished is better than perfect,
Oh
and
yeah, I like
so
that.
I always try and just finish stuff, even if I don't like it really. And I kind of always did that. And also like when I just started out, like it was a little bit before there was like a million tutorials online, like so
Okay.
I was just figuring it out as I went along. I didn't EQ anything for like at the first year. Like I didn't know what any of that was. I didn't know what mastering was for like the first year. I didn't know what mixing was.
Hmm.
So I was just in my head, like, to me, it was the coolest music in the world because didn't really know if it was bad. I didn't know that it was bad, and I also had some weird, I think I just had a blind confidence that it was good. Like as
Yeah.
soon as I started doing it, I was like, oh, like, I mean, now once I leave school, I'll be a touring musician. It's all going to be good. Like I'm chilling now, like I didn't even consider anything else at that point. So yeah, I kind of just threw it out. Um, and there was like a really small scene of people doing it here,
Hmm.
not like like a really small amount of people that we were all connected on this Scottish producer Facebook group.
Oh wow. Oh, so you kind of
So
connected with each other via Facebook.
yeah, and that was everyone was just throwing their songs in there,
Were you
and
getting feedback from people there, like, "Oh, you should do
yeah,
this," or that's
yeah,
cool. So
kind
you kind
of.
of had a collaboration, even though you're doing it solo.
Yeah, a little bit. And I also like I think when I first started doing it, my best friend also started doing it. So
Mm.
we were just excited about it together. Like at that stage of going to each other's houses and being like, let's make a dubstep song and like trying our very best to make like the best dubstep song ever.
Mhm.
And it would always be trash, but it sounded like the best thing in the world to us
Yeah, and
because
you had
we
fun doing it.
exactly. Yeah, it was that's the main thing I think is like just going to each other's houses and it gets to like 11 p.m. and you've got to go home because you have school in the morning. But like you don't want to go because you're having too much fun making beats. Like
Yeah.
it was that kind of thing, which was I think that's the reason I kept at it so long was that's why I kind of didn't stop doing it. When a lot of people would like started to drop off when they realized it might not be, a career for them, and it was just like, they were overwhelmed with maybe how long it would take and or maybe they just wanted to have it more as a hobby.
Right.
Um, a lot of people kind of dropped off and stopped doing it, but we just kind of kept going doing the same thing.
How yeah,
Um,
at what point did you realize, or, like, did you go to school to advance your learning of production or anything like that? At what point did you decide, like, "This is what I wanna do, with
um,
my life?"
I knew it. I think I just knew it almost instantly after I started doing it, and then I
Mhm.
never had a backup. Like I did really. I started probably when I was 16, 15. I'm 28 now, so like
Wow.
12 years ago probably.
Yeah.
And yeah, I just didn't have a backup. I it was one of the only things in life that I'd really like become enamored with, and I just wanted to do it all the time. And yeah, I guess yeah, I just sort of did school. Like I stopped. I didn't apply myself to any of the stuff at school that I didn't care about. Like I did well in music at school, but that was it. Everything else I failed massively at. I did like really terribly at school, and so I left school early. My school asked me to leave because my grades were so bad.
They asked you to leave.
Yeah, so my
Do you
school,
mind leaving?"
yeah, literally, and it's so dumb, man. It's so dumb, but like they were like, Yeah, we just think like, you know, your grades aren't great, and they were one of those schools that really cared about um how their grades looked so that
Oh
they
yeah,
could
like
climb the
academics.
ladder, like the school ladder, and be one
Sure.
of the but yeah,
Get
they
more
made me
money
leave.
from the government. At
Yeah.
least that's what they do here in the United States.
That's it. And it was like, you know, it was just like a regular state school, but like they so badly wanted to be a bit more like um well-to-do and posh than they
Right.
actually were. They were
Sure.
just it was just a regular state school, but they cared so much about the grades. And yeah, so they asked me to leave like a year early. They said maybe you should just go to college. So I did. I went to college. I did sound production. So basically, sitting in front of the recording bands in this little
Wow.
studio at college. I hated it.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
You didn't like recording the other bands?
No, I didn't like recording the other bands. I didn't really care about that side of it. And
Mhm.
then I just wanted to make tunes. And yeah, and then I kept making little dance beats. And it came to like our final project at college, and everyone obviously submitted all their band recordings and things they'd done with, bands. And I hadn't done any of it because I didn't want to. So I just submitted like I
A
submitted
song
a
you wrote?
couple beats, and then like a remix that I'd done, and my teacher at college was like, "This is really good. Like, just focus on doing this.
Oh,
Don't
wow.
do the
So
band
they
stuff."
gave you
Yeah,
that, yeah, they validated what you were doing. It wasn't
yeah,
like,
and
"I can't believe you wasted all the time doing
yeah,
this."
literally. So I mean, that was good. And then yeah, and then from there, I went to I ended up finally at university. So in the UK, I don't know, it's different. I don't really
Yeah, it's a
know.
little bit different. Yeah,
Yeah,
because
it's
we go
like
through high school and then straight to university.
yeah. So
Uh,
you can do that here, but there's also college, which is like a midway point if you don't do great in school and you don't have the grades, or like if you just want to study something maybe that's more practical. There's a lot of like really hands-on like practical or trade
yeah,
courses at
they
colleges.
used to have that here. It was called
Um
trade school. Like, you could go and learn
yeah,
how to be whatever, electrician or,
yeah.
learn how to do
So
something, like, more that made more sense if you were like, "What's the point of doing 2 more years of, you know,
yeah,
these bullshit classes when I could go learn a
that's it.
trade?" But
Yeah,
here you have to finish the high school and then you go to what we call college, which is
yeah,
university for you all.
yeah, that's it. So then yeah, so I did college and I ended up at university. I did sound design, which once again I didn't like because I didn't want to make
Like
sounds for
films.
yeah, for like films and video games and advertising, whatever it may be. I just didn't enjoy that either. So I submitted I submitted like a piece I submitted music for art. So
Mm.
I created sound art pieces based around visual art pieces,
Oh, that's cool.
which I thought was really sick. And my lecturer, he was like, "This isn't really follow the curriculum," but like I think he liked it, and I ended up getting an okay, like a pretty good grade, and got my degree
Wow.
from that. So it all ended up fine. Like I
Yeah.
guess taking the risk of doing something that nobody else was doing did pay off
It
through
worked
those
for
things.
sure. Yeah, at least
But
because yeah, you obviously were talented at it too, and it wasn't like, okay, this just guy just threw this together like last
yeah,
second,
yeah.
and yeah,
Yeah, I
they
went fully into it with that project too. I was studying synesthesia. I was studying like methods of songwriting related to color, and then I was like talking about like childhood perception of color. So like, what do children, in your formative years, what colors resonate with what emotions, and how does that influence you growing up? And if you were to see those cut, like all that stuff, as I went well deep into it. But so I think that's probably what got me the passing grade, but
sure.
it was definitely like a shock for them because not a shock, but they just are like, this isn't exactly what this course is about. You know what I mean?
Right,
They're like,
right, right.
technically this isn't correct, but A plus for effort. Um, so yeah, and then that
Nice.
was it. But yeah, I can't remember what the original question was. I guess it was just like, when did I know I was what to do
Yeah,
this? But it was through all of that basically.
okay.
I kind of I just knew what to do it, but I was obviously like naive about it too. Like
Mhm.
when I was at high school, I was like, by the time I'm finished with uni, like I'll be a turned professional. I'll be
Right.
like, I'll be big, I'll be successful, I'll be touring. Like, I'm not stressed about it. But it obviously didn't it doesn't always transpire that way. It took a lot
Sure.
longer.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, so like what after you'd finished, like when did you start going by Pocket? Like when did that whole
Yeah.
like when did this whole project really begin?
So I started so Pocket only the first release we had was at the start of 2021. So it was quite fresh. Like
Oh wow.
I'd had projects before and I just sort of fallen out of love with them. Um and it was a pandemic, obviously. I had like a lot of time to just think, a little too much time. And then yeah, made the decision to to start afresh. And I think with the intention of like, what do I really want? Because like I got caught up in that whole rat race of like the sound design wars or like the loudness wars, and I'm like, who can make the most obnoxious thing? And yeah, I think I was somewhere along the way lost the passion for like what does Louis want? Like what
Mhm.
sounds make me happy? And that's all that was. It was starting fresh and just making stuff that made me happy. Um, and it all kind of went from there. It was purely like an experimentation phase for the most part,
Mm.
um, which I think is good. Like I wouldn't have changed it because I went through like so many different ideas before I landed on the first song for Pocket.
Yeah,
Like
and yeah, so once you land on the first song, sorry, go ahead. I didn't mean to cut you off.
no, it's right. No worries. I was basically done. Sorry.
No, I was just gonna say, like, yeah, once you find that song that works out, and you're like, okay, I'm gonna put this up. Like
Mhm.
after you started releasing music under Pocket, what was like? Was there a like an early kind of milestone that you had hit, or something that happened, and you're like, okay, wow, like this is like a
Yeah,
validation that you had that you knew
yeah,
you were on the right path.
yeah. I mean, it was. It was, I think, well, the first two songs we put out, we put them out independent. Well, not independent. We put them out independently through Alpha Pup. So we had somebody distributing for us, but no label.
Hmm.
So it was completely independent on that front. But yeah, it just got picked up by a lot of playlists pretty instantly. We got support from Spotify,
Wow.
which was huge. That was like a big confidence boost because I hadn't really had editorial support before in past projects. So yeah, to have like we had a bunch of editorial support early on, and that obviously like being in those playlists puts you in front of people, which opened us up to getting emails from people about opportunities and remixes, and people reaching out, venues reaching out early, like being like, "What's the plan for this project? Like, we'd love to down the road work with a Pocket, etc." So yeah,
Hmm.
it was just super quick, man. It was like it felt like luck, but think I always I think it was right sound, right time. It was a little bit of that as I was just making what I wanted to make and what I liked, and it just so happened to be something that people resonated with at that time.
Hmm.
But also, yeah, there's that phrase. I love this phrase. I always use it, but luck is just preparation meets opportunity.
Right, right,
And like
100%.
I it was fully that. It was opportunities came along, I had the experience and preparation like necessary to like take them. And I had the, I think I'd been making music like 10 years at that point. So it was of a certain quality where it, had legs pretty quickly.
Mhm.
And yeah, when people were coming with us with remix opportunities and um, all these things, it was like, yeah, I'm kind of ready to do it now. I can knock them out pretty quick. And so yeah, it was all a whole matter of things, but for the most part, it was just right sound, right time for the most part, I think. And
Mhm.
I
And it
guess what
wasn't, yeah, like you said, it wasn't like you had just decided like 2 weeks ago, like, "Oh, I'm gonna try to do this,
yeah,
make a beat
yeah,
thing," and then you put
yeah,
something out and it like people are reaching out like, "Oh, hey, this is cool.
Yeah.
Like, what do you got going on?" And you're just like, well, I don't know. Like, I
Yeah.
just figured this out 20 minutes ago or whatever."
Exactly.
Or I've interviewed artists that will put a song up on TikTok and like they hadn't really done anything prior, and then it's like people are
Mhm.
going to their category, or I mean their Spotify, and there's nothing there, no one
Yeah.
else there, and it's
Completely.
like, uh-oh, I gotta
Yeah.
really hurry up and finish, or the song wasn't even done. It was like a clip of something that they're working on that goes up on there, and then they blow
Yeah.
up, and it's like, "Oh, I gotta go, like,
Yeah.
record this," or you know what I mean?
Yeah, and that's it. I just had been doing it for such a long period of time. And, even before I'd started working with my manager like a year before we ever released a song. So we
Mhm,
had plenty of time to talk about our goals and plenty of time. I'd a fair few demos at that point stacked up that we had ready to release. So when the first single came out, we were instantly able to capitalize on the fact that it did well with the second and so on and so forth. So it just all lined up nicely. And
mhm.
yeah, I think so much of it was just um that yeah, I mean, I'd had a sound that I was happy with from day dot, and like so I've not really needed to change what I'm making too much since. It's
Mhm.
still, and I still love doing it. It's still
Yeah,
like really fresh to me because it's only been like 2 years.
right.
So
And you
um
have your EP coming out as well, like, in, like,
yeah,
what, 2 weeks or something? A
yeah,
week?
just under 2 weeks. Yeah,
That's
it's
incredible.
coming out
S
on
Yeah, Love Disc EP. I wanna hear
yes
about
sir.
this EP.
Yeah.
You got a lot of cool features on it. I mean, with Evergreen, is the most recent one I think I've heard from you
Yeah.
with KLOE.
Hmm.
Yeah, tell me, I wanna hear all about the EP. Let me know about it.
Yeah, I mean, it was like I was just making a bunch of demos last year, and I was talking with my manager, and I was like, "We should." I think I just want to do an EP now. It was kind of that was it, but it was, I wanted to. I'm not like a huge when it comes to writing music. I'm not a huge. Um, I'm not somebody who like invests emotion and I don't go into it intentionally with emotion being um the thing that carries it,
Yeah, like
right?
the
Like
driving force.
a lot of it for me is like the part of making music I like the most is the play of it and the experimentation and the discovery.
Mhm,
And so I always go into music with that mindset, but going into doing the EP is like I wanted to make I wanted to make a record that had like that did lead with the emotional side, but also might not have done that necessarily through like lyricism or things like that. It was like a lot of the sounds on the record are there's kind of like a lot of through lines with a lot of the sounds are similar, and I've used a similar palette on the whole record, but it's just because I know those specific sounds playing specific melodies makes me feel really good. It makes me feel, emotional in a way.
mhm.
So yeah, the whole idea of that was just to make stuff that made me feel real good. It was like what makes me feel the most um lively, and
Yeah.
kind of just did it that way. And you
Uh,
know that was the only foresight, that was the only kind of planning part that went into it, was like it has to have this feel. The feel was the central thing of it all.
so it wasn't like you had written a song and you're like, "Wow, okay, this is great." I mean, you wrote something and then decided like, I should just keep doing something similar to
Mhm.
this to make an
Yeah,
EP." It was you kind of went into it knowing you wanted to write an EP.
yeah, kind of, yeah,
Okay.
because I'd made a few demos that were originally going to be the first few tracks off the record, but I scrapped those pretty quickly because
Mhm.
they just didn't feel right. They felt too far in one direction, and then I made one song which is uh it's the first track on the EP, so it's track one. Um and I made that song, and that was the one that like it all fell into place after that, because it was like I'd made that song and I was like, this is the song I've been wanting to make for years. I think this is the song I've been wanting to make my whole life,
Mhm.
and it's not all that um flashy, and it's not like a pop song, or it's not like too much of anything. It's pretty simple, like when you break it down, but it's this melody and the melodic sensibility of it, the voicings, the chords, and the sounds. those two things together, like, yeah, I think that was like the moment where I was like, this EP's, this is something that I could really work on and really be proud of.
Mhm.
Um,
Yeah, I've actually had a chance to hear the EP, and
mm,
that song you're talking about is called ADHD, but like
yeah,
880, like the number 80.
ATHD, yeah,
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 which is super clever in
uh-huh.
itself. And but the recent single is the one with Chloe Evergreen. How
Yeah.
did you have a couple features on the album or the EP? How did you end up linking up with them?
So Chloe's been a friend of mine for years at this point. So I just have known Chloe for a long time. Um, and we tried to collaborate before, but we didn't really, we didn't have anything that we wanted to move forward with.
Mhm.
And then we've been talking about it sort of not long before we made the track about trying it again and trying something new. And yeah, I just sent her that instrumental, and she next day sent me a whole song basically.
Oh,
It was like
wow.
really fast. But she's like just such a good songwriter. She's amazing. So I kind of wasn't surprised that she had turned it over that quick. But
Mhm.
yeah, and that then when she sent, because I wasn't even 100% that was going to be on the EP before I sent it to her, but then as she sent the vocal back, and I was like, Jesus
It's on the
Christ,
EP.
yeah, it's on the EP. It's for sure on the EP now, and it's
Yeah.
nice. It's like a sentimental song. I like I said before, I'm not much for lyricism. I'm not great with it, and any kind of emotion I'm putting into the song is purely like, whatever I'm feeling at the time, whatever feels good. It's
Mhm.
not necessarily coming from a specific place, but we'd had a conversation the day before about, my girlfriend lives in New York, so we're doing like a long distance relationship, and we'd had a conversation about that before, me and Chloe. And I guess she just was like inspired by that situation, so she wrote the whole song about that.
Oh, wow.
Um, so it's really nice, and now
Mhm.
it's something that not only like me and Chloe have, but I share with my partner too.
Mhm.
Um, so yeah, it's like a nice thing. I think that's kind of one of the more sentimental ones on the record for sure. The rest, for the most part, is just fun,
Yeah. I
um,
love that. That's so
just
cool.
having a laugh. But yeah,
So go ahead. I was just gonna say, so once the EP comes out on the 23rd here, do you have like I mean, you said people were reaching out to you about performing at different clubs. Are you doing like a tour? Are you gonna do a big release show for the EP, or
hmm
do you have anything
well,
planned?
we're potentially planning something here in Edinburgh.
Awesome.
There's a really cool venue here in Edinburgh called Sneaky Pete's that we've done a show at before, and yeah, I mean it was uh, little things like that. I think preliminary, like kind of shows. We might do a little mix at like a space here that I'm really fond of. But as for like touring and stuff, we're working on getting more shows lined up post EP. But I don't think there's going to be a full tour.
Mhm.
But it's not off the cards. I think down the line, it's definitely something that could end up happening. Um, I'm always in go mode, so I'm like ready to write the next one now. So
Yeah.
that's where I'm at. But we're definitely, yeah, we're gonna be doing some kind of more local stuff here in the UK. I've got some stuff coming up next month. So yeah, there'll be things coming off the tail of it that'll be really cool.
Awesome.
Which is exciting. And hopefully, down the line, my plan is like to do a live show for the record. So a love disc show with, live elements, performance, things like that. Don't know what it'd look like, but that's 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 the future's problem.
I
Um, yeah,
like that.
but
Well,
yeah,
thank
very
you.
exciting.
Yeah, thank you so much for doing this, Pocket. I appreciate your time today.
Thank you so much, man.
Yeah. One more question. I want to
Yeah.
know if you have any advice for aspiring artists.
Yes. Don't yeah. I mean, there's literally no rules. I guess don't don't limit yourself. I think one of the biggest problems people have is they're taught something a certain way and they stick with it that way their whole life, or they don't break outside of it. Just like when it comes to electronic music, especially, like knowing that you can take any element or you can find any effects plugin, any synth plugin, and you could do something, you know, that typically would sound bad, but just try and make it work, you know. There's literally nothing stopping you from doing anything. So I think just bearing that in mind, and that not having to stick to the dance music meta and the formula, and just have fun. And I think make sure it's always play, like keep the exploration side of it at the forefront the whole time. Like don't lose that, I guess would be my biggest advice.
Bringing it back